Welcome to Ask Allie with multi-award-winning dog trainer Allie Smith, answering real dog questions from real dog parents.
Brooklyn and Camilla Lombardi are two dogs that are owned by Jen. Jen asked me that the younger of her two dogs got spayed, and the day after the procedure, Jen, accidentally leant on the older dog, causing the older dog to yelp. The puppy who'd just been spayed attacked the older dog, and there was skin broken, and Jen is essentially concerned as to whether their relationship can be fixed. This goes back to cortisol again. After your dog's been in for an operation, their cortisol will be up. So again, cortisol is stress hormone, just in case you weren't here earlier. Cortisol is the stress hormone that basically dictates how our dogs respond in a fight or flight situation. And it's something that all mammals, I think at least all mammals, I'm not sure about reptiles and birds, I'm sure they do, but they all have it, and it just makes us very sensitive to our surroundings. So, after an operation such as, that was the very first question that I answered. This will be replayed and it will be sectioned up and it will be released as a podcast, so by all means go there. That should cover you, okay? The puppy was in pain, is essentially what we're saying here. So the puppy's in pain, cortisol is up, and consequently, she's feeling sensitive. The older dog has reacted in pain towards their human mum, their guardian. Pup has basically overreacted. Pup has gone straight into a fight mode and directed all of that on the other dog, which is really sad, possibly avoidable, but again, please do not punish yourself on these things because we are human and we don't know what we don't know. Okay, but it's a learning experience, and I want to just make sure that you don't repeat it and others hopefully learn from this. So it's not anything to bring you down here, Jen, at all. So when a dog in a multi-dog household goes in for an operation, oh, sorry, I've got dog flu up my nose. We're in shedding season, aren't we? And it's right up my snoot. So when a dog goes in for an operation, it's a case that when they come out, they are always more sensitive. And this, to me, is actually something that I think contributes hugely towards reactivity, because when you look at the time that most dogs go in for a spay or neuter, it tends to be spot on when the second fear phase starts of puppy development. So the second fear phase happens somewhere between 6 and 18 months, depending on the size of your dog, breed, gender, all sorts of variables, okay? We go in, get an elective surgery, bring the dog out, and then we've had a puppy that's all sorts of rambunctious and all sorts of crazy and hasn't learned to shut down, hasn't learned to switch off, and then they get told they can't do much for a couple of weeks. And then we take them back out into the world and put them back on their original regime, right? That's how it works. And then they go back in pain, and then we ask them to be just as sociable and just as normal and just as well adjusted as they were the day before they went into that surgery. It's physically not possible. I know I say that dogs are resilient, and they are, but they ain't that resilient. So that pain that they are in changes their way that they interact with the world. And a lot of the time we forget that. We're just desperate to get them back out onto their walks and onto their exercise, and as much for us as for them, usually. So yeah, we often forget our dogs are in pain and that unfortunately they hide it really well as well. So it makes it really difficult for us to react appropriately. And I actually think, as I said, that this is a lot of where reactivity comes in, because they go back out into the world feeling in pain, all a little bit disjointed, having not socialised for a couple of weeks, and then we put them back with everybody, and then things go wrong, and then they make associations that they don't. For example, they start playing with their friend, and all of a sudden something hurts, and it shouldn't have hurt, and then they get a bit snappy, and then something else happens, and we get the effect that we would like to call trigger stacking in dog training, which is essentially just the same principle as the straw that breaks the camel's back. This happens, then that happens, then bang. Okay? Same principle. But to go back to the exact situation that Brooklyn and Carmela Lombardi are going through, Pup was sore. Pup should have been given more space. Pup should have had time away from the other dog, just to protect from this, okay? And again, please don't punish yourself. This is education purposes for everyone else. We should have let Pup recover a little bit more and given her at least a couple of days away from her sister, such that she had that time to recover and bounce back, because It's tough. Surgery's tough on everyone, right? And it's no different for our dogs. What you can do now in a multi-dog household is to keep them separate for a little while and just let everybody come down. Carmilla of Brooklyn and Camilla Lombardi's account's owner, Jenn, did say that she's currently got them separated in different houses, so that really helps. But yeah, just allowing them to come down and everybody to de-stress, because now you've stressed out the other dog too. And if you can, get that pain dealt with. If it's an underlying pain that your older dog is suffering with, get that dealt with too. And then just slowly reintroduce them. Something like mutual walking or parallel walking can really help in this instance. And by parallel walking, we essentially walk as far away from each other as we need to for the dogs to focus on the human and not on each other. And we start walking. Every time they're doing the right thing, inch them closer together. If the other dog becomes too much of a struggle, separate a little bit, okay? Rinse and repeat until you manage to get a nice walking together, and hopefully that'll be before the end of the walk, and you can go home and then everybody goes to a separate area for a quick nap. Do that a couple of times before I start like reintroducing around each other more. Outside spaces are usually easier than inside spaces, depending on your home and depending where you are. Because I know, like in England, when I was in England, gardens tend to be the size of a postage stamp, whereas in America, gardens tend to be a bit bigger, or yards. Depending where you are and depending what you're facing, you might want to just pick a nice area with a bit of space and see if they can deal with each other. You might elect to have the dog who's got less recall on a long line, just to make sure that you've got that control should that be needed. But to be honest, this sounds like everybody's just got to heal up a little bit, de-stress and come back together. I know that you said, Jen, that you were struggling, or you really wanted to get to the point that everybody could sleep on the bed together again, because it's a wonderful thing when you've got multiple dogs in a home and you all get to have cuddle time on the bed. And I know that one because I do that too. It might be a little way off. I just want to manage your expectations, but it is doable, okay? You're just going to have to play it by ear, and if they need more space, listen to them. If they want less space, manage it. I'm not going to say listen to them then, because a lot of the times, unfortunately, our dogs don't necessarily know what's best for them. And I would always advocate using your sense and a little bit of caution, because dogfights are scary. Moderate it, be there, make sure that you make all of their interactions as much of a positive thing as possible, such that nobody gets hurt, nobody ends up in pain. We want basically a little utopia. You basically have to craft a little utopia for your dogs and manage out all the stress, manage out all the opportunities for it to go wrong, and then slowly reintroduce those opportunities. It's slow, it's rubbish, but it's doable. Okay, it is entirely doable. I really hope that helps, and if you need anything more, please give me a shout. And if you want to go into some actual professional training with this with me, absolutely happy to help.
Do you want Allie to answer your questions? Email woof@rebarkable.com and make sure to subscribe.